Hello everyone, welcome back to another tutorial by Made in Peace. Today I'll be showing you how I use my handy dandy I-cord tool. I find this tool super useful, especially since making I-cord can be very time consuming. So I like to use it to make I-cord, or as you can see I have this I-cord made of smaller I-cords, and I'll be using some yarn which I thrifted. So without further ado, let's get into the tutorial, and thank you so much for watching. So what is an I-cord tool? An I-cord tool typically consists of a handle, and then in some variation it has attached these 3 latch hooks. So as you can see, there's this little tiny bit here that flips up and down, and we have 3 of these hooks. Some tools I've seen have 4. You can get these on Amazon, although personally I really like the quality of this one I bought from Etsy, and so I will link the Etsy shop I bought it from below. When it comes to casting on our I-cord tool, we're just going to take whatever yarn you're using. I typically wouldn't do more than a worsted weight. I think you really could go worsted or thinner. So we're just going to start by making a standard slip knot. Instead of pulling it tight like you would around a crochet hook, we're going to leave it very large and loose. Then we are going to feed that around the loops of our I-cord tool, and then before we start pulling, we are going to make sure that that center loop actually goes under. So we are going to have an over, under, over pattern, and then we're going to just tighten it up a little bit so that it's not super large. Much like other knitting machine implements, it's really common that your cast on row is pretty loose, so you might want to undo it and tighten it at the end, and the I-cord tool is no exception. Now that we've cast on with our over, under, over positioning, we are going to begin making our I-cord. So we're going to begin by making sure all of our latches are flipped to the downward position. So just like that, you should have all of these open hooks. So we're going to take our yarn tail and fold it over our 3 hooks so that it falls above those latches and will be encased when those latches flip to the closed position. And then we're going to slide our slip knot towards the top. Now remember, since we cast it under that middle, it is not actually going to close that middle needle, and we might have to just slide it with our thumb over the outer 2 and then slide it down. From here, the final step is just to wrap it once more, and this time when we pull our slip knot up, it's going to close all 3 needles and should pull over all 3 needles, and then we just slide it back down. So once we repeat this process a couple of times, it becomes really rhythmic, and you should be able to basically do this while holding the handle of your I-cord tool with one hand and wrapping the yarn and pulling the slip knot up with the other. From here, the process is to simply continue wrapping our yarn, pulling the existing cord over the needles, sliding it down, and repeating. And after those first couple, it should flow really, really smoothly once you actually get some length on there. Now, if you can't do that quite yet, or you're struggling, there are a couple of things you can do that I find really help me when using this tool. Number one is you can't pull your yarn too tight. So sometimes when I'm wrapping it, you do need tension when you wrap it so that it's positioned correctly within the needles. But then after you pull it and you slide it down, if it's still really tight, your I-cord is going to be pushed towards the base of those needles, and it's going to be really hard to move. So the biggest thing, honestly, after I complete a wrap and I realize I'm struggling to pull the I-cord over those loops, is I just shift it back and forth a few times, and that adds a little bit of length onto those loops, which are around the base of our needles. And that makes it much easier to just slide it over and down, shimmy it, wrap, pull it up, slide it down. The other thing you might run into when you're pulling it is, oh no, I just accidentally pulled my I-cord off of my I-cord tool. But don't worry, this is actually a really simple fix. I just make sure that all of my loops have some good length to them so that I don't, lose anybody and accidentally undo my I-cord. And then I find the loop that's connected to our tail. So the loop connected to our tail is generally going to be the one to the farthest right of our I-cord tool. And so from there, I just put that one on the farthest right, the middle to the middle, and the left to the left. And like nothing ever happened, we can just continue I-cording away. So now you've been I-cording for a while, and let's say you have whatever kind of I-cord length you were looking for. How on earth do we finish this? So this is my method. There are, like many forms of knitting, many ways you could technically finish this, but mine is to shimmy this again so that we have some nice long loops. As you can see right there, they're extended over what they typically would be. And then I simply remove our I-cord from our I-cord tool. The next step I like to take is to take my scissors or some sort of cutting tool and just cut with a little bit of a tail. And then, much like you would finish off crochet projects, I like to just thread this tail through each of these 3 loops. So there it is, through loop 1, through loop 2, and I've now threaded it through loop 3. And then from there, I just pull it tight, and it will cinch it so that we have a nice tight end. And then this tail can, with a needle, very easily be woven back into our I-cord. Thank you again for watching this mini I-cord tutorial. Like I said, I find this to be a really useful tool, and I have a lot of really exciting projects coming up that involve it. I hope that this tutorial was useful for you. And I'm also trying really hard right now to reach monetization. So if you have the time and interest, if you'd like to hit like and subscribe, that would really help me reach that goal.